Ganjing World, a brighter way of life.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Our stories today: President Trump calling people behind protests in Los Angeles insurrectionists, how he's doubling down on the decision to deploy National Guard, and how California Governor Gavin Newsom plans to respond next. Trade talks between the U.S. and China resumed today, and FBI Director Kash Patel talks about a dangerous CCP plan to harm Americans. New travel bans take effect, and citizens from a dozen countries are now barred from entering the U.S. The president cites national security and public safety concerns. House Speaker Mike Johnson downplays Elon Musk's influence on the big budget bill. He says Republican lawmakers have gotten almost no calls refuting the bill. The largest prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine since the start of the war is underway. Both sides say they successfully completed the first round today. The emotional moment as soldiers arrive home and see their families.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. Tensions continue to rise in Los Angeles after a weekend of mass protests, arrests, and federal immigration raids. LAPD has declared several protests unlawful assemblies. Here's the latest on that.
Hundreds of National Guard troops are patrolling Los Angeles following orders from President Trump after days of violent protests and riots linked to federal immigration enforcement. But now, according to U.S. Northern Command, an additional 500 Marines are on standby at 29 Palms, ready to deploy if the situation escalates. Under the Posse Comitatus Act, active duty military can only be deployed in specific circumstances. The Insurrection Act of 1807 outlines these exceptions, but no final decision has been made about these riots. Reporters questioned President Trump Sunday about whether he planned to use the Insurrection Act. In response, Trump said his decision would depend on if the situation qualified as an insurrection. The unrest kicked off on Friday after immigration and customs agents arrested dozens of illegal immigrants in coordinated raids across the city, part of a larger deportation operation authorized by the president. Trump on social media said the riots only strengthened the administration's resolve to carry out deportations. He promised to restore order in a social media post saying, quote, "The illegals will be expelled and Los Angeles will be set free." LA Mayor Karen Bass condemned the deployment of federal troops. She described it as a dangerous escalation, but also urged protesters not to engage in violence. California Governor Gavin Newsom said he has formally requested the Trump administration rescind the, quote, "unlawful deployment of troops." House Speaker Mike Johnson on Sunday defended Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard on ABC's This Week.
I have no concern about that at all. I think the president did exactly what he needed to do. These are federal laws. We have to maintain the rule of law, and that is not what is happening. And Gavin Newsom has shown an inability or an unwillingness to do what is necessary there, so the president stepped in. That's real leadership, and he has the authority and the responsibility to do it.
On Sunday afternoon, demonstrators set several Waymo self-driving cars on fire. Protesters also blocked traffic on the busy 101 freeway, halting cars in both directions in downtown LA. The city's police department said it would not assist with mass deportations and urged the community to feel safe calling officers regardless of immigration status. Meanwhile, police arrested around 60 people in San Francisco after another protest outside an immigration services building. Authorities said the demonstration quickly escalated into violence. The protest began near Sansome and Washington Streets, close to the financial district, around 7 p.m.
President Trump revealing what his intelligence team is telling him about violent protests in Los Angeles while he doubles down on sending in National Guards. The Democratic governor is prepared to sue the administration. And joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. First of all, good afternoon, Iris. What is the president saying today about the Los Angeles situation?
Good evening to you as well, Don. So President Trump, upon returning to the White House this morning from Camp David, where he spent his Sunday night, told us that he believes that his intelligence team told him that the violent protests behind them in Los Angeles are, quote, professional agitators and insurrectionists. He further says that they should be imprisoned, while again criticizing the Democratic governor of California. Watch.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. What does your intel tell you about the people causing all the problems in LA? The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail.
Trump over Sunday also called them, quote, insurrectionist mobs on Truth Social, again saying that Los Angeles has been invaded by illegal aliens and what he calls criminals. And today, this morning, he again doubled down on his decision to send in about 2,000 National Guards, saying that without that, Los Angeles would have been, quote, completely obliterated. While it's the first time in about 60 years that an American president has done it without the governor's consent, President Trump cited a law that allowed him to use that power to, when it's needed, to, quote, repel an invasion or suppress a rebellion. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom, though, is trying to test that theory by planning to sue the Trump administration as early as today. Don.
And Iris, what could come next in the administration's response now that the president is calling some protesters insurrectionists? Could he invoke the Insurrection Act?
Oh, that's certainly a big question. We know that the Insurrection Act, which is an 18th century wartime law that allows for the use of active duty military forces to deal with violent protests, is now in question. Meanwhile, President Trump on Sunday, though, stopped short of telling reporters if he's actually planning to invoke that, saying that it will depend on whether the situation there actually qualifies as an insurrection. We could hear more, though, from President Trump this afternoon as he hosts an event about his $1,000 Trump accounts for newborns in the U.S. So expected to hear more from the president about the latest situation in Los Angeles. John.
All right, Iris, thank you very much. Next, video footage captured the moment an Australian journalist was struck by a rubber bullet yesterday while reporting live during the Los Angeles protests.
Moving them on through the heart of LA.
You just shut the f*** up. You okay?
I'm good.
9 News reporter Lauren Tomasi had just finished a report for viewers in Australia when an armed police officer in riot gear behind her shot her with a rubber bullet. The network says Tomasi and her camera operator are safe. It says the pair will continue their work covering the events. 9 News also remarked that the incident serves as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers journalists can face while reporting from the front lines of protests. Continuing with their unrest in Los Angeles, police have declared all of downtown Los Angeles to be an unlawful assembly area. They ordered protesters to go home last night after a third day of violence hit demonstrations against President Trump's immigration policy. FBI Director Kash Patel says the agency will target individuals who assault law enforcement officials. Meanwhile, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino says several arrests have already been made in both Los Angeles and New York City, where sporadic protests erupted over the weekend. More investigations are underway. And President Trump's travel ban went into effect a minute past midnight last night. It bans citizens from 12 countries from entering the U.S. and imposes travel restrictions on 7 others. In a social media video, Trump connected the new travel ban to the recent firebomb attack in Boulder, Colorado, warning of the risks posed by individuals who overstay their visas. He said the measure will protect national security and ensure public safety. The policy does not have an end date. The ban does not revoke existing visas issued to people from the list of countries, and those holding valid visas should still be allowed to enter the U.S. during the travel ban. The U.S. State Department has ordered diplomatic posts around the world to resume processing of Harvard University students and exchange visitor visas. Earlier last week, the Trump administration issued guidance to posts which told them to refuse visa applicants for students and researchers going to Harvard. But a district judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking the move. The Trump administration and Harvard have both previously cited concerns about whether foreign consulates were appropriately processing visas for prospective Harvard students. Trade negotiators from the U.S. and China head back to the negotiating table today in London. The high-stakes meeting follows President Trump's call with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping last week. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the talks, plus comments from FBI Director Kash Patel about a Chinese Communist Party plan to harm America.
The U.S. delegation includes Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. The team will press Beijing to fully implement the terms of the May 12th trade agreement reached in Geneva, which included mutual tariff reductions. Rare earth exports have been a big point of contention. Trump announced after talking to Xi that the dispute over China's rare earth export restrictions had been resolved. However, officials remain cautious. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett says rare earth exports have resumed, but are still below the levels previously agreed on. China said Saturday that it has approved a number of licenses for rare earth export applications. The country controls nearly 60% of global rare earth production and about 85% of processing capacity, leverage it has used as a strategic weapon against other countries in recent years. U.S. visa restrictions for Chinese students have become another sticking point in bilateral relations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a statement in May that the United States would aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. More than 270,000 Chinese students studied in the U.S. in the 2023-2024 academic year. FBI Director Kash Patel recently sat down for a wide-ranging interview with podcaster Joe Rogan. Patel discussed how the CCP is behind the precursor chemicals needed to make fentanyl.
They've got hundreds of companies standing up in mainland China, shipping this stuff out into the world.
Patel says once he arrived at the FBI, they began going after the fentanyl precursor companies in mainland China. With those moves, plus shutting down the southern border, Patel says the CCP is switching up its methods.
You know, instead of going right up the southern border and into America, you know what they're doing? They're flying it into Vancouver. They're taking the precursors up to Canada, manufacturing it up there.
Patel says it isn't about money. He says the CCP is directly targeting Americans because the United States is their adversary.
Their long-term game is this. How do I, in my opinion, kneecap the United States of America, our largest adversary? Well, why don't we go and take out generations of young men and women who might grow up to serve in the United States military or become a cop or become a teacher? And that's what they're doing when you wipe out tens of thousands of Americans a year.
In 2024, there were over 48,000 deaths involving fentanyl. Patel also warned that traffickers are disguising fentanyl-laced counterfeit pills as candy or gummy bears to appeal to children. In May, 3 Chinese nationals and a China-based firm were charged with importing pill presses and equipment for making lethal fake pills into the United States. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, House Speaker Mike Johnson downplays Elon Musk's influence on the big budget bill. He says Republican lawmakers have gotten almost no calls refuting the bill. That and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422, 800-210-6422.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Does Elon Musk's criticism of the GOP's big budget bill hold enough sway to kill it? House Speaker Mike Johnson says Musk's opinion isn't resonating as much as some might suggest. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Amid concerns that Elon Musk's calls to kill the bill would ramp up public criticism of the GOP's budget bill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said Republican lawmakers have got almost no calls to the offices to oppose it. Musk recently floated the idea of creating a third major political party. And amid concerns that Musk would try to use funding to primary GOP bill supporters, Johnson brushed off the threat.
Well, I think it'd be a big mistake. I think Elon knows at the end of the day, the reason he got involved to help President Trump win and to help Republicans win the majority in the House and the Senate is because he understands that our policies are better for human flourishing, they're better for the U.S. economy.
There are still others who remain concerned about the bill's deficit spending.
And if we just pass this, if it's a one and done, we will not be really addressing the major problem here in terms of massive growing deficits and debt.
To win over support from skeptics like this, Speaker Johnson is quickly moving a DOGE spending cut bill known as a rescissions package to the House floor this week. The first action would claw back $9 billion in foreign aid and public broadcasting funding. The process Republicans hope to use would allow funding for a number of Biden-era programs to be cut with a simple majority vote, meaning Democrat votes won't be needed in the Senate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
U.S. troops have made their first arrests inside new military zones along the southern border. According to an Army spokesperson, 3 illegal immigrants and handed over to Border Patrol on June 3rd. The areas, stretching 260 miles across New Mexico and Texas, were recently declared extensions of Army bases. President Trump has expanded the military's role at the border, allowing troops to detain and search trespassers in these zones. The areas function as military bases, letting troops act without the use of the Insurrection Act. Some prosecutions have faced setbacks, with judges ruling that illegal immigrants didn't know they were entering restricted zones. Malicious apps from the Google Play Store are tricking Android phone users into giving away personal details and using them to drain their cryptocurrency wallets. Software company Sybil discovered over 20 crypto phishing apps that impersonate popular crypto wallets. From there, they seek a user's 12-word mnemonic phrase. The phrase then lets hackers steal cryptocurrency. According to researchers, the apps are under different developer names and are tied to legitimate software. It suggests the accounts were compromised by other actors. What's more, the methods used across multiple fake apps indicate a coordinated, centralized effort. The digital wallets being impersonated include Pancake Swap, Sushi Swap, and Radium. The financial losses tied to the breach are not recoverable, since cryptocurrency is not protected by the safeguards used in traditional banking. Cybel reported the fake applications to Google, and the apps are now being taken down. Severe weather is hitting the south. Storms swept through the region over the weekend, killing 2 people. The storms brought down trees and power lines, with heavy rain, hail, and strong winds reported across the region. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said 1 person died in Lafayette County when a tree fell on a vehicle. Another person was killed in Bank County, Georgia, also when a tree fell on a vehicle. That's according to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. The National Weather Service said an EF1 tornado injured 1 person and damaged homes in western Arkansas. According to PowerOutage.us, nearly 150,000 customers from Texas to South Carolina lost power during the height of the storm. And more dangerous weather is on the way, with forecasters warning of hurricane-force winds, giant hail, and possible tornadoes across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Estimated tax payments for the second quarter of 2025 are due next Monday, June 16th. The Internal Revenue Service says taxpayers who fail to pay on time face underpayment penalties. Taxes have to be paid throughout the year on a pay-as-you-go schedule. According to the IRS, income from self-employment, gig work, 1099 earnings, and others need to be made estimated tax payments on a quarterly basis. Employees whose incomes are being withheld may also be required to make the quarterly estimated tax payment. To prevent this situation, individuals can ask employers to withhold a larger amount from their income. June 16th is also the due date for taxpayers living and working abroad to file and pay their 2024 taxes. Federal health officials said Saturday that a Salmonella outbreak linked to a large egg recall has made dozens of people sick. The cases have been reported in 7 states in the West and Midwest. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said at least 79 people across 7 states have fallen ill. This includes 21 who had to be hospitalized. There have been no deaths reported. August Egg Company has recalled 1.7 million dozen brown cage-free and brown certified organic eggs that were distributed between February and May. They were sold under multiple brand names and distributed to retailers in 9 states. Some of the retail locations include Walmart, Safeway, and Ralph's. Warner Brothers Discovery is breaking up. The media conglomerate says it will split into 2 companies, separating its studios and streaming business from its cable television networks. Warner Brothers Discovery said today that streaming and studios will include Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max. The global networks company will include CNN, TNT Sports, Discovery, and Bleacher Sports. CEO David Zaslav will lead the streaming and studios business after the breakup. CFO Gunnar Weidenfels will head the global networks unit. The separation will be structured as a tax-free transaction and is expected to be completed by the middle of next year. It's graduation season, and cake decorators at the nation's largest retailers expect to decorate more than 1 million cakes this May and June. This huge effort is to meet the high demand for custom cakes as students graduate across the country. Here's a closer look.
One cake decorator promotes her skills on social media. A video of her making the cupcake bouquet has almost 500,000 views.
Well, TikTok helps me stay up to date. A lot of trends that I see on there, within that week or within that month, customers will come asking about it. The cupcake bouquets are #1 right now, the biggest seller. So it's 12 cupcakes set up to look like a flower bouquet.
The 6,200 Walmart cake decorators in the U.S. are the highest paid non-managerial hourly workers in a typical Walmart store. Walmart places great importance on this part of its business.
That's one of the most important things, and that's price point. And Walmart has the best price point out of everybody else in the business.
It drives sales, creates excitement, and brings in repeat customers.
What we're seeing is the consumer entering into an era of dupes, duplications. less expensive versions of the original. Walmart offering up decorated cakes that would normally cost hundreds of dollars, offering them up for a fraction of the price.
Oh, the price is fantastic.
What are you spending?
I'm walking out with 2 cakes for $40.
The company says their custom cake business is currently increasing at double-digit percentages year to date.
Coming up, how does the National Guard balance the need for increased force versus de-escalation, and what are the differences between military-style crowd control and traditional law enforcement methods? We talked to a former U.S. colonel for insight.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。所以，我希望给你的每一把琴，都是首先我所信任的。
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Tensions are rising in downtown Los Angeles as protests over immigration enforcement stretch into a 4th day. Demonstrators are demanding the release of a union leader arrested during an ICE operation. NTD's Christina Corona is live right now in downtown Los Angeles. Christina, good afternoon to you. How is it there? Can you tell us?
Good afternoon. That's correct. We're here at the Grand Park in downtown Los Angeles, where hundreds of anti-ICE protesters are here demanding the release of David Huerta, the union leader, who was taken into federal custody on Friday during an immigration raid. Now, they're having a rally and a protest that is set to begin at noon, but as you can see, it's filling up by the minute. Now, this comes after several ICE raids occurred throughout Los Angeles County over the weekend, which led to many protesters clashing with the National Guard and with police officers. And as of the latest, officials have reported at least 42 arrests have been made. Now, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem shared an update yesterday of the National Guard
Los Angeles, saying that the National Guard is present in order to keep peace and allow people to be able to protest, but also to maintain law and order.
And Christina, what are you seeing as well in terms of the police presence there right now?
Well, as of right now, concerned with the National Guard is not here at the park. However, there is heavy police presence all throughout, downtown Los Angeles, with several streets blocked off, just preparing and ready for any other protesters coming in. An SEIU official did tell me that she heard that all of the high schools in the area are planning to walk out and come here to the press conference at noon. However, officials also said that up to 500 Marines are on standby and ready to deploy here if needed.
All right, Christina, thank you very much for that update. Next, family members of illegal immigrant warehouse workers in California held a press conference today. They say their relatives were illegally kidnapped by immigration and customs agents last week. Federal immigration agents conducted a series of enforcement operations at businesses across Los Angeles on Friday. They have declined to reveal the details of the operations, except to say that the arrests targeted criminals and non-citizens who have broken immigration laws. Illegal immigrant advocates allege that at least 45 people were arrested without warrants across 7 locations.
These workers are heads of households where they have left their families and loved ones behind to fend for themselves. Our community asks for the support of all of you here so that our relatives can be returned to their families.
This nation's past and present has relied on the exploitation of immigrant labor and then treating the immigrant working class as disposable. Make no mistake, the targeting of the Garment District and Home Depot are not coincidences. These areas have been a place where immigrants have found a lifeline here in this country. And yet we refuse to give up. What you see here today are people fighting back and rising up against the continued brutalization of the Angelino immigrant community. What you're bearing witness to are those who form the beating heart of LA, demanding that our local leaders protect the rights of working class immigrants.
Several family members asked for due process for their loved ones and demanded justice. While they've called the ICE arrests kidnappings and illegal, the White House has said the agents were exercising federal authority to enforce immigration law. Elenia Jung-hee Van, a fellow at the California Collaborative for Immigration Justice, speaking on behalf of the families, gave this call to action.
It's time for us to rise up together and lean on rapid response networks, ICE watch efforts, liberation campaigns, the redistribution of wealth to those who are now even closer to precarity, and doing everything in our collective power to not normalize this authoritarian regime of terror. I want to leave you all with a sobering anecdote. One of the members of the families who are present here has not heard from, the family has not heard from them since they were detained on Friday. I tried to meet with them now for several days and have been deprived of access to them.
And joining us now to discuss the situation regarding the protests and riots is retired Colonel John Mills, Senior Fellow, Center for Security Policy. So good afternoon, Colonel. So before we get to that topic, let me get a quick reaction on what you just heard in that soundbite there. What do you think is the right balance in terms of national security and immigration enforcement versus actually allowing immigrants to be in the U.S. and to come into the U.S. so they can contribute to the economy?
Well, thank you, Don. I mean, there's a difference between immigrants and legal immigration and illegal immigrants. That's the basics of what's going on here. America needs legal immigrants and welcomes legal immigrants, but that's not what's going on. This is a complete misrepresentation of what's going on. And right now, we have a failure of the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles to provide equal protection for all citizens. This is violent protests harming individuals and property and livelihoods. This is astroturf. This is not organic. So we have to totally separate immigration. It shouldn't even be discussed in this. This is not about legal immigration. This is about illegal immigration and those who benefit from it which is essentially human trafficking. So I guess people are violently protesting because they want to have human trafficking.
So as we're looking at the footage here, you can see the violence and the chaos there. How does the National Guard assess the need for increased force versus de-escalation in these types of situations?
Well, okay, again, the governor of California and the mayor have totally failed to provide for equal protection of all citizens. Therefore, the president, who has a right to do this, has federalized the National Guard to step in and return Los Angeles to order, or at least those places subject to this violent uprising. So the National Guard has a variety of capabilities to essentially bring this to a law and order situation, and so they have a variety of what are called non-lethal capabilities to do this. That would include tear gas, frangible, non-lethal bullets if necessary. Things like that, but again, this is absolute. These are illegal aliens, and their supporters, which I guess support human trafficking, causing this violence, and it absolutely cannot be tolerated.
Okay, there's one thing I'm wondering here with the National Guard units. For example, the 79th Infantry Brigade. Are they trained for a civil operation like this, or would it be outside their core mission set? Can you talk to us about that?
Now, National Guard is normally a basic part of a training. The training of any National Guard unit is essentially riot control, and this is a riot. So that is normally, whether it's an infantry unit, an armor unit, an engineer unit, or another type of unit. That is a basic core activity of members of the National Guard, and they usually do receive some training on that during the year.
So as you mentioned earlier, flashbang grenades and tear gas have already been used. What are the exact protocols that allows such force? What needs to happen when the National Guard members can use this force?
Well, that's an assessment of tactical commanders on the scene and their rules of engagements. They have worked out with in coordination with local law enforcement and essentially legal advisors from the city, the state, and the federal government. And since they've been federalized at this point in time, it really is something they're working out directly, most likely, with Department of Justice. Since the city and the state have failed to in their core missions, they've essentially become bystanders in this whole enforcement of civil society. So they would essentially be note takers and recipients of what's worked out between Department of Justice, ICE, and the National Guard, which is now federalized.
Okay, so Colonel, you said that the National Guard is actually trained for situations like this. So then my question is, what's the difference between military-style control, crowd control, and traditional law enforcement methods? Are there a lot of overlap in those two?
Oh, yeah, it's essentially the same. This is not a combat situation, and that's a different situation. It is violent, and there are different scales of violent activity, but this is a violent riot, and there is, I would say, close to 100% overlap in the training. The rioters, as of I'm unaware of them using weapons such as guns to shoot at the National Guard. That would definitely bring in an even higher level of response, but it is a lot of projectiles are being thrown, which can kill. There are vehicles being driven that have collided with members of that have been driven by the rioters. Those are deadly weapons. So there are potentially situations where the National Guard members would have to escalate to deadly force. And these are violent and chaotic situations. So that's the challenge. And that's in many ways what the organizers and of the violent protests are hoping for. They want to seek potentially a deadly engagement and encounter. And so they're going to provoke it, and they're going to push the envelope on this, because that's essentially what the organizers of this violence want.
Okay, Colonel, with that being said, I also like to touch on the Insurrection Act. Basically, in a nutshell, active duty military forces are generally restricted from engaging in law enforcement unless the Insurrection Act is invoked. If it is in fact invoked, what would the role of active duty troops look like in contrast to the National Guard?
Well, that's where active duty forces could be brought up. There are Marine forces in the more towards San Diego, but they could be brought up from Camp Pendleton to reinforce the National Guard. Active duty members do not receive as much training in basic crowd dispersement and law enforcement, but when they are brought in, that normally means it's a much higher level of risk. But it is the Insurrection Act. I'd have to review the exact language, but all the president has to do is essentially tell the violent rioters to disperse, and that the Insurrection Act is being invoked. It's a very simple. It's a very simple piece of U.S. law.
Okay, are there any national security concerns of placing active duty Marines on standby for domestic deployment?
Well, it is something that potentially takes them away from possible deployment for the time being, but that's those are the trade-offs that continually have to be assessed. We never have enough resources to cover all issues at all times, but that's just something that has to be considered. Now, has what we would call a prepare to deploy order, a PTDO, has that actually been initiated? Don't know, and something like that could be reasonable even without at this point in time a presidential declaration of the Insurrection Act that's being invoked. So a PTDO may have been already issued just to alert possible forces. It essentially gives the possible forces a basic understanding of what's going on and what they need to do in order to deploy if called upon to do that.
Well, okay, Colonel, that's all I have for you today. And again, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure.
You bet, Don. Thank you.
Next, Russia and Ukraine successfully exchanged the first round of prisoners in a major swap. Once completed, it would be the largest exchange of prisoners since the start of the war. NTD's international correspondent, Arian Pasdar, has the Ukraine update.
The largest prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine started on Monday. Emotional Ukrainian soldiers reunited with their families after arriving back home by bus. One of them called his mother as soon as he was back in Ukraine.
Hello, Mama. Hello, Mom. I have arrived. I am back in our homeland. Thank you so much for everything, for all your letters. I love you. I cannot wait to see you.
And emotions also ran high on the Russian side. Around 600 Russian soldiers arrived back home on Monday.
We hope everything ends soon. Victory will be ours, and everyone will come back home to relatives.
Russia and Ukraine agreed to the swap during talks in Istanbul last week. They struck a deal to exchange all seriously wounded and all young soldiers between the ages of 18 and 25. Both sides agreed to exchange at least 1,200 prisoners of war. This would be the biggest swap since the start of the conflict. Now, Monday's exchange was only the first step in this major swap agreed to last week. Kiev says the swap will take place over several stages in the next coming days. But over the weekend, both sides have been accusing each other of trying to delay the process. And on Monday, Russia again suggested that it doesn't think Ukraine is serious about the process. Watch.
The Russian Federation always fulfills the agreements that were reached, which cannot be said about the Ukrainian side. We have seen and heard 100 different excuses, justifications, and so on.
Although the first round of the swap is complete, more are still missing. Part of the agreement is also to exchange the bodies of soldiers who died. Russia released this footage, saying it is ready for the swap. On Sunday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denied the claims that Kiev is delaying the process.
Ukraine continues to do everything possible so that the release of our prisoners of war and the repatriation of the bodies of our Ukrainian fallen takes place.
Zelensky on Sunday also accused Russia of not handing over a list with the names of the soldiers to be exchanged. This problem seems to have been resolved, at least for the first round of the swaps. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Flight tracking data showed a new Boeing 737 MAX land in China today. The U.S. plane manufacturer had previously said that Beijing will halt the delivery of new planes due to U.S. tariffs. Boeing added that China has also considered reselling dozens of aircraft. The Xiamen Airlines plane left Seattle on Saturday and halted to refuel in Hawaii and Guam. The aircraft landed at a Boeing completion center near China's commercial hub of Shanghai. Boeing halted deliveries of new aircraft to China in April as the world's two largest economies slapped tariffs on each other's goods. The American plane maker said at the end of May deliveries would resume in June after the tariffs were scaled back for 90 days. The director of the CIA revealed a strategy the agency is using to get intelligence from China. The agency uses Mandarin on the dark web.
The way to counter China is to go on offense. And so we released two Mandarin-speaking videos to the Chinese people, inviting them to contact us through the dark web, because a lot of the people in China are not happy with what's happening, and they can be, great sources of intelligence for us.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe was speaking to Lara Trump on Fox News. He said the CIA plans to have more people inside China gathering intelligence. The information will keep the U.S. government aware of the activities of the Chinese Communist Party. He said more data will go to the president to give him an advantage when dealing with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. On the show, he also spoke of efforts to depoliticize the CIA and have it refocus on its mission of intelligence gathering. He told Lara Trump, "We're going to get back to what made the CIA great." Coming up, Brooklyn's Brighton Beach train station transformed into a living museum over the weekend. And let's take a look on the ride on several of the trains after the break.
I'm Ilka. I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
Over the weekend, Brooklyn's Brighton Beach station transformed into a living museum as the New York Transit Museum's parade of trains rolled through. With just a swipe of a Metro card, New Yorkers and visitors alike had a chance to hop aboard a time machine that traveled back a century. NTD's Stefania Cox took a ride on several of the trains. Take a look.
Step aboard and experience New York City as riders did more than a century ago. With the annual parade of trains, visitors hop on and off vintage subway cars at Brighton Beach and Kings Highway stations, turning a summer weekend into a living history lesson. For many, this event is a highlight of the year, a chance to see, hear, and feel the development of the subway firsthand. Riders marveled at the details, rattan seats, leather straps, and the absence of modern comforts. Each car tells a story, from the faded advertisements of decades past to the clang of the conductor's bell. This year's parade of trains featured some of the most iconic cars in New York's transit history. The 1904 BU Gate cars, the oldest in the fleet, offering an open-air ride that recalls the subway's earliest days. BMT Standards, pioneers of Brooklyn's subway service from the 1910s to 1920s. And R19s, the classic 1930s cars, now famous as the holiday nostalgia train, beloved by generations for their timeless charm.
People love remembering the cars that they were on or the cars that their family members were on. With the Brooklyn Union elevated cars, those are the trains my grandmother rode back and forth to the Navy Yard. So I've got a family connection to them. A lot of the other cars people rode, and they're showing them off to their kids and grandkids.
How do you feel about the train ride today?
Like, very great, actually.
We have a lot of variety. I call the New York City subway the Haagen-Dazs of subway cars because you have variety and you look at the different body styles and types. So you're seeing generations of subway cars.
The old trains, the old mechanics are so cool. Just so interesting to think about what New York life might have been back at that time.
I really love being on this train from 1914. I love just the feel.
It feels nice coming to this event because it's like, it feels nice coming to this event because this is my first time, and like, you know, the R32s, the R46s, like I grew up with them mostly on the ANC. I remember like when I was little, my mom would take me to school and we would always get an R32 and like the train would just go flying like on the way to school. It was a really fun ride, and like I'm really gonna miss these cars. So like
the parade of trains is just one part of the Transit Museum's year-round nostalgia ride series, which has been delighting train lovers and history buffs since the 1970s. If you missed this year's parade of trains, there's still plenty to explore. Visit the Transit Museum in downtown Brooklyn, or join an upcoming nostalgia ride to keep the journey going. Reporting from Brooklyn, Stefania Cox, NTD News.
In Santiago, the craft of the hat maker is surviving. A century-old shop in the Chilean capital is ensuring hats do not become fast fashion. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the popular accessory.
Donde Golpea el Monito is one of Santiago's famous hat shops. The name means where the monkey strikes, as a little mechanical primate taps the shop window to draw in clientele. Owner and master hatter Roberto Lawson continues to craft his products by hand.
I feel very happy to be able to redeem this story, to highlight this beautiful craft that has endured for so many years. It's something quite rare nowadays, a business lasting over 100 years like this one, built on tradition, on a product that is loved and spoken about since we were children.
Opened in 1915, racks hold every style imaginable. Fedoras, black bowlers, safari helmets, top hats, and more. Master hatter Luis Araya says his work is more than a job.
To me, this is the most beautiful thing because I carry it with me and try to do it as transparently and honestly as possible. And well, if it turns out well, which I believe it does because I don't think I fail much, then it's a source of pride for me. Part of my craft is learning. The more one moves forward in life, the more one grows.
Customers include the former head of state, Salvador Allende, and now the current president, Gabriel Boric. Salesman Pedro Diaz explains the importance of the materials used.
In this shop, there's a variety of products, but the one that's been selling the most lately is this hat, a fedora. It's a dress hat. We offer two options, one made of fur felt, like this one, and one made of wool. They're different in both material and price. In the South, for example, people often wear this fur felt hat. Why? Because it can get wet, and absolutely nothing happens to it. Water just slides off. You could be out in the rain all day, and this hat will stay exactly the same.
The institution is as much a museum as a shop. Juan Gonzalez has been a customer for over a decade.
I came to check out the shop and ended up taking a few hats with me because I really like the style. I like this type of hat, and they're great quality. So it's a product you buy, and on top of that, this store has history. Buying something with history to me gives it real meaning in today's world where everything is so cheap, so easy, and so disposable.
So much for fast fashion. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And now President Donald Trump is participating in the Invest in America roundtable at the White House. Let's take a good look.
American children to have a strong start in life at no cost to the American taxpayer. Absolutely no cost. It's going to have a huge impact. I want to thank House Speaker Mike Johnson for, number one, being a great speaker, and number two, perhaps slightly less important, for being here today. Thank you, Mike. Along with Chairman Jason Smith, who's fantastic, and Representatives French Hill, August Pfluger, Blake Moore, Rob Bresnahan, and Frank Lucas. Thank you all, fellas. Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much. Thanks as well to many top business leaders from Invest America, CEO, Council. It's been a wonderful council. They've come up with some fantastic ideas. We're putting them into use. They're really the greatest business minds we have today. These men and women lead large, successful companies, and they're committed to contributing millions of dollars to the Trump account, and it's really it's going to be something incredible for children and for their employees in many cases. Here's how the accounts work. For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market. In other words, it'll be pegged to an index that we'll pick. Right, Michael? We'll pick it. We'll pick a good one. Maybe you should be the index. I'd like to have that. These kids would be very wealthy if that were the case. That would be a good idea. I think we might do that, Michael Dell. These accounts will be private property controlled by the child's guardians, and in many cases, those guardians will be the parents. We think probably the parents will be the guardians. They'll be open for additional private contributions each year from family, friends, parents, employers, churches, private foundations, and more. This is a pro-family initiative that will help millions of Americans harness the strength of our economy to lift up the next generation, and they'll really be getting a big jump on life, especially if we get a little bit lucky with some of the numbers and the economies into the future. In addition to the substantial financial benefits of investing early in life, extensive research shows that children with savings accounts are more likely to graduate high school and college, buy a home, start a business, and are less likely to be incarcerated. Trump accounts will contribute to the lifelong success of millions of newborn babies. They are fully, and this will be very interesting, I think, for everybody to hear, they are fully funded through targeted reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill, like the $1.7 trillion in mandatory savings, welfare reforms to stop waste and fraud, a 3.5% remittance tax, and more. and it's just a part of that. The One Big Beautiful Bill is among the most important pieces of legislation in our country's history. I don't think there's ever been anything bigger, and I think it's going to go down as certainly one of the most important things we'll ever have done. In addition to the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, including the most powerful border security measures ever, it delivers major economic relief to the American workers' families. And there are so many things. Rebuilding our military, we built it just 8 years ago. We started and did a great job, but now we have to rebuild it again. Plus technology change. All of a sudden, it's about drone. You know, we have a new form of warfare. It's drone warfare. So a lot of things change. We did a great job with the military, but now we're going to have to do some little tweaks, to put it mildly. And we'll be doing that, and we have it all nicely funded. I look forward to signing this into law. It's really something that we're having such an opportunity. And I have to say, he's here with us. He's a person that I've admired for a long time. You take a look at what he's done and followed his record. And it's Dell Chairman Michael Dell. He's done such an incredible job. It's as a business person, I study business people, and that's a perfect one to study. It should be almost mandatory reading. So I want to congratulate you on that, and thank you for the idea, because you're the first one that really brought this to my attention. I know that you and your friends have been talking about it for a long time, but other presidents didn't get it done, Michael, right? So we got it done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Sure. I want to also give some recognition to my friend Brad Gerstner, who helped get us all organized and
that's right.
And actually
thank you very much. Good, Brad.
Spearheaded this.
Good. And also we have with us a very powerful man in the world of business, CEO David Solomon of Goldman Sachs. David, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here.
Long-time friend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. Where is Khosrowshahi? Where? Thank you very much. That's a hell of a name, but you've done a hell of a job. So that's appropriate. And also, again, Chairman Smith for doing such a job. Nobody knows taxes better than Chairman Smith. When we have a problem, Mike, we go to see Chairman Smith, right? So I want to thank you very much, Dara and Chairman Smith. I appreciate it. So I'd like to begin by asking Speaker Johnson to say a few words. And I think then we're going to go to Michael Dell, David Solomon. We're going to go to Dara and then to Chairman Smith. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your bold, visionary leadership. It is the key to all of this great success that we are achieving. And the One Big Beautiful Bill, it is not an overstatement to say it will be one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress. There's a lot in here. And by extension, or I would say it is an extension of the figure who I believe will be the most consequential president of the modern era, if not all American history, and that's the gentleman sitting to my left. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful statement. Huh? Well, I like him too. Thank you.
It's a statement of objective fact, and every working American understands, I think, the principle behind this concept that we're discussing today. If you have a 401k, you understand the power of investing early for the future. Trump accounts take that same principle, and they apply it from the very beginning of Americans' lives. It's a pretty simple concept. The families that opt in will receive a one-time payment of $1,000 to a Trump account that parents can contribute to. It's a bold, transformative policy that gives every eligible American child a financial head start from day one. Republicans are proud to be the party, we always have been, that supports life and families and prosperity and opportunity. And Trump accounts are all about setting up the next generation for success. For future Americans, this early investment could really be the game changer. It could be a difference. It could pave the way for paying their way through college or buying their first home or starting a business, even when they're young. So even $1,000 at birth will put these Americans in a better position than over half of American adults who sadly have no retirement savings at all. So this would be a remedy to that great problem. And it will encourage the free market. It will encourage investment and understanding of capitalism. All these things that we want to foster among the American people so that the economy and individual lives can flourish. Of course, none of this happens unless we pass our one big beautiful bill through Congress. And we have at stake the largest tax increase in American history if we fail to deliver. And we will not have this rocket fuel to the U.S. economy, and that's why this is so very important. Passing this pro-growth legislation will help every single American. From Trump accounts, this is one of the components of it, to eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, to reducing red tape on Main Street. And the one big beautiful bill is going to drive prosperity. It's going to create jobs across the country. It will make all boats rise. Wages will go up. Job participation levels will go up. We'll have more opportunity, more economic opportunity for more people. So you can climb up that ladder to the next step. The typical family with 2 children is going to see their take-home pay increase by up to $13,300 a year. That's real money to real people. This legislation is geared for hardworking Americans, and it is going to help everybody. And we are excited to deliver it. It can't happen soon enough. We are very close now to that finish line. After about 14 months worth of work that's gone into this, we're excited that we're almost there. Mr. President, thanks again for your leadership, to all the great leaders around this table for all that they invest to our economy and our country and its government. And I will, as we say in the House, I'll yield back.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And again, for a great job. Thank you very much. Michael, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I believe this is an incredible moment for all of us here today, and it's wonderful to be with some of the leaders of the most successful companies in the world as we come together to invest in the future of our country. We see the Invest America Act and the establishment of these Trump accounts as a simple yet powerful way to transform lives. Decades of research have shown that giving children a financial head start profoundly impacts their long-term success. With these accounts, children will be much more likely to graduate from college, to start a business, to buy a home, and achieve lifelong financial stability. Dell Technologies is proud to be one of the very first companies to support the Invest America Act, a bill that provides every child with a $1,000 seed investment account at birth. This is a straightforward step with enduring benefits. Following your inspiring lead, Mr. President, Dell Technologies will match the government's contributions, dollar for every child born to a Dell team member. This isn't just a new benefit. This is an investment in our people, their families, our communities, and America's future. And it embodies our core belief that opportunity should begin at birth. My wife, Susan, and I, also through our family foundation, have been closely studying the Invest America Act. And assuming that it becomes law, we expect to make a very significant gift. We view this initiative as a powerful platform for philanthropic innovation aimed at helping children thrive wherever they come from, particularly those families who have been historically left behind. Mr. President, you articulated it perfectly. These Invest America accounts will give every new American child a genuine opportunity to participate in history's greatest engine of economic growth, the American economy. The funds in these accounts invested in American enterprise and innovation will grow over time into substantial nest eggs, providing support for education, home ownership, and starting families. The ability of families, friends, benefactors, and employers to match the government's generosity amplifies the life-changing potential of this initiative. Thank you, Mr. President, for your visionary leadership on this critical issue. These Invest America accounts will profoundly impact countless young Americans, ensuring they truly benefit from what Abraham Lincoln described as the right of every American, the right to rise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. And we really have come a long way since you came to see me about 6 months ago with your beautiful wife. We had a nice talk. I said, that sounds pretty good. Let's think about that. And it's everybody I've spoken to about it, they can't even believe it. And because of great politicians and political leaders like we have, I think this is going to go quickly, very well and very quickly. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. David Solomon, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm thrilled to be here with everyone and excited to participate in this important and timely discussion. I'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of so many in Congress on this very significant issue, and in particular the members here, and particularly the leadership of Senator Cruz and Representative Moore, who have played a big role in helping drive this forward. We also wouldn't be here today without the leadership of Brad Gerstner and Michael Dell in really having the vision, the energy, the passion, the commitment to help move this forward. So thank you both. There are many reasons why the United States has the largest and most dynamic and most innovative economy in the world. But one of the most important is the fact that our system of democratic capitalism incentivizes a culture that does not penalize people for taking risks. In fact, it incentivizes people to have a vision, to go out and attract funding that's necessary to make their vision a reality. It is no mistake that many of the most important and innovative companies in the world today started in a parent's garage or on a college campus or in any one of a number of unlikely places in the United States. One of my worries is that our current and future generations of young people don't fully appreciate and aren't as educated as well as they can be on markets and capitalism. And while capitalism is not perfect, it helps fuel the American dream. This initiative gets at the core of binding those future generations to the benefits and the potential of America's great companies and markets. Early childhood investments have far-reaching benefits, and Goldman Sachs is proud to support this initiative. This is an exciting opportunity for public-private partnership and for both communities and companies to invest in young people, the future of America. Once we see the Invest in America Act signed into law, Goldman Sachs would be excited to further support this Invest in America initiative. We believe passionately in our capital markets. They are an enormous competitive strength for the United States, and we know that our economy's future vitality is dependent on young people understanding the power of investing for the long term and sharing in the benefits of ideas that bring value to the lives of people around the world. Thank you, Mr. President, for helping drive this forward, and I look forward to continued partnership on this effort.
Thank you very much, David. Dara, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us here today. It's an incredible honor to be here in a place that symbolizes the very opportunity that has defined my life. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Michael, for your vision. We all strive to build something that lasts, and the Invest in America Act is a legacy that is going to last for generations. President Trump, thank you for your leadership. Your support is going to turn this powerful idea into a powerful reality for millions of young Americans. Now, I was 9 years old when I came to this country. My family arrived in America having fled the Iranian Revolution. We had lost everything that we had built. But we gained something far more valuable here. We gained a chance to rebuild again. We had a close-knit family. We had access to world-class education. And we had the one thing that fuels every American dream, and that's hope. So what if we could bottle up that hope? What if we could give that same power of hope, real, tangible hope that comes from having a stake in your own future and a stake in the best companies in the world to every single child that's born in this country? That's the promise of the Invest America Act. It's not just an account, it's a launch pad. It puts the unstoppable engine of compounding to work for our kids, building a future for them from day one. This mission is personal to me, and it's core to us at Uber. Every day we see people using our platform to create opportunities for themselves, to save for a home, to pay for tuition, to build their own American dream one trip at a time. And that's why Uber is so proud to support this bill, which also includes benefits for millions of Uber drivers and couriers in the form of no tax on tips. Mr. President, our earners are grateful for your support.
Thank you very much. Right? What a great job. You know, when you think we're doing a lot of work on Iran right now, and yes. I see that what you just said, you came here and Absolutely. They took it all away from you, and you started, and you've become one of the biggest anywhere in the world. What a great story that is.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Congratulations.
President. And wish you all the success there.
Thank you very much. We'll need it. We're going to need it for that. That's it.
They're tough negotiators.
They're great negotiators.
Yes.
Among the best. Look at
yes.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Darren. Jason, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first start off by thanking you for your leadership, your vision, your commitment to workers and families throughout this country. The One Big Beautiful Bill would not have been possible without you. And it delivers the largest tax cut in U.S. history, the largest mandatory spending cuts in U.S. history, the most significant welfare reforms in U.S. history, and the largest one-time investment in border security. So it's things to be extremely proud about. Representing Southeast Missouri, I'm extremely proud about how you're delivering for working families. No tax on tips. A waitress like the waitress in Nevada that talked to you about no tax on tips, and the other 4 million tipped employees in the country, they will see an extra $1,700 in their paycheck because of the no tax on tips. That's significant for someone who's just trying to put food on their table and clothes on their backs. The linemen working overtime to restore power will get an additional $1,750 into their paycheck. Seniors will get $72 billion in tax cuts. The Trump investment accounts will be a game changer for new parents, even before their newborn baby can walk or talk. Their child will have money saved to one day learn a trade, start a business, or to buy a home. Every child born under this policy will have a better shot at a future. It does not matter if they live on a city block or on a county road. This will make a significant difference to their lives, and it's because of your leadership, Mr. President, and we say thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jason, and hopefully we're going to get that through, and we have a certain date picked out, an ideal date. If it takes a little longer, that's okay, but ideally we're going to get by a certain date. And again, I think it's one of the most important pieces of legislation we've ever had before us and that the country's ever had. I'd like to ask, if I might, Brad Gerstner, one of the most successful people in our country. I'm a friend of Michael very much, and Michael has great respect. And if you don't mind, Brad, I'd like to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Well, first, it's a great honor and privilege to be here. We wouldn't be here without your leadership. And for me personally, to be here with my son, Lincoln Gerstner, happens to be named after the gentleman over your right shoulder.
Where's Lincoln? He's good looking. He's much better looking than you. What happened?
Hey, we all want our kids to be better than ourselves. But it was around our small kitchen table that this idea was really born. I started off like Jason Smith in a small rural town in Indiana. My dad had lost everything in 1978 trying to start an auto parts company, and the Japanese were tearing apart our auto industry. We had double-digit interest rates and inflation. Our family mortgaged the house to keep the company going and ultimately lost everything. So I know a little something about starting with nothing. And I know what it felt like that first time you had a little skin in the game, where you thought you had a shot. You went from nothing to something. And like Dara said, that is the great story of America. The promise that there's mobility, the promise we can move up that ladder. But today, we've moved to a society of dependency, right? I saw somebody answer the White House's tweet on this today by saying the answer to socialism is more capitalism. This is more capitalism. This is aligning every child in America with the upside of free markets and the benefits. And that is your Main Street agenda, Mr. President. No tax on tips, that doesn't help rich folks. That helps the people who feel left out and left behind. No tax on overtime, no tax or deduction on Social Security, and the Trump accounts, right, that everybody in this room are here and we've been working so hard on, but would never come to fruition without your leadership. Those will change the game forever. It makes America an ownership society again, because all of those kids will see the benefit of compounding. If you start with $1,000 and $750 is added a year by parents, grandparents, by churches, by the companies in this room who will all contribute to the accounts of the kids of their employees, by the great philanthropists in America. I think $750 is a low estimate per year.
I think so.
But if you do that, by age 18, Mr. President, these are worth $50,000. By age 30, they're worth $175,000. And if you do it every year of your life, at age 50, they're worth $1 million. You are giving the shot for every American to feel like they're in the game again, part of America with that economic mobility, that dream that led Michael Dell to start Dell Computer in his dorm room, Dara to feel like he had a shot after coming here from Iran, and a couple poor kids from Missouri and Indiana to make it to where we are today. So thank you for your leadership. This would not happen without the reconciliation bill and the work of the many in this room, but spearheaded by the Speaker and Jason Smith, the big, beautiful bill. This is the vehicle to get the Invest America Act passed. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Brett. Great job. And nobody knew I was going to call you. He might have done the best job of the group. You've got to think about that, Mike. Good recommendation, Michael. Does anybody have any questions? I think it's something that's really got to be talked about because it's somewhat of a miracle that we're close to pulling it off. Please.
We put Independence Day as a self-imposed deadline, and we certainly hope, I believe, we can still meet that. It's up to the Senate. The bill's in the Senate's hands now, but I spoke with Leader Thune as recently as last night. He's feeling very optimistic. You see the Senate going through the same deliberations we went through in the House, except we had 14 months to do it. They've got a truncated time period to get that done, but as you all know, I've encouraged my dear friends and colleagues over there, don't modify it too much, because we've got a very delicate balance that we reached, and it took us a long time to get there. And we don't want to upset that balance too much. So they're putting their fingerprints on it. I hope it'll be a light touch, and they'll send it back, and we'll get this thing done and get it to the President's desk.
And really, we have tremendous spirit. I've never seen anything like it. There's just an unbelievable. We'll always have a couple of people. I don't want to use the word grandstanders. I'd never use such a word, but you'll always have that a little bit. But maybe you won't even have that. Who knows? There's tremendous spirit for this bill. I think like we haven't seen very much, Jason, right? We haven't seen too much. So I think it's going to go pretty quickly.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, you just mentioned Iran. Did you discuss Iran?
Very
Did you
well.
discuss
the
Gaza war?
Yeah, we discussed a lot of things, and it went very well, very smooth. We'll see what happens. You know, we're trying to do something with a country we just spoke about, Iran. I think you should negotiate this. You might be better. I think I'm going to send you today. What a good idea. This could have been the idea of the day. We'll have Dara get up and negotiate. They are good negotiators, but they're tough. Sometimes they can be too tough. That's the problem. So we're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death. And we've told them that, and I've told them that, and I hope that's the way it works out. But it might not work out that way. We'll soon find out. Yeah, please.
Talking about unrest in American cities, you said, quote, "We have to go by the laws. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor." What changed now? Why is this situation different to not consult with Governor Newsom about this?
Well, the biggest change from that statement is we have an incompetent governor. So I talked about governors, but I didn't talk about he's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. You had a disaster happening, and they now admit it was a disaster. I watched the chief yesterday, who's a good man, by the way, and he said, "Wow, we're lucky we did this because they were overwhelmed. You saw what was happening." So we did the right thing. Everybody agrees to that. But you have a governor who let the city burn down, didn't want water to be sent down to him. And I sent billions of gallons of water. I wanted to do it in the first term. He wouldn't do it over, I don't know, they have environmental reasons, but there were no environmental reasons. I think it's just a political philosophy. But it's lucky for the people in Los Angeles and in California that we did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit, but not very much. Yeah, please.
Have you gotten...
A crime has he committed? I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad. It's a wrong philosophy. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of them prisoners. They're taking up your health care. They're taking up your space in schools. They're taking up your hospital. And in many cases, they're criminals. And we have to do something about it. And we're doing something about it. I want to thank the incredible patriots of ICE and Tom Homan, who has been incredible, and Kristi Noem, likewise incredible. The job they're doing. And it's like an unforced error. There was no reason for this. 21 million people were allowed into our country, and many of those people were criminals. And it's a shame. It's a shame. But we're getting them out. And I will say, I think it's a 95-5 issue, just like so many other issues, 95-5. And the Democrats lost an election in a landslide because they're on the wrong side of the issues. I mean, it's not even conceivable that somebody would do the kind of things that he did. And then, you know, you talk about projects. They want to build a train going from San Francisco to L.A., and it's costing hundreds of billions of dollars more than they thought it was going to cost. It's not even believable. To Brad and to people sitting here, would you believe that a train, it was going to cost X dollars, and it might be 100 times X?
Would have paid for this for about 50 million American children.
You're right.
50 million American children instead of a 3-mile train track that never got built.
We could have put Lincoln in charge with no experience. He would have done a good job. I guarantee you that. All right, please, Peter.
Mr. President, have you gotten an update from your negotiating?
Thank you, President Trump. So it seems like Gavin Newsom likes the attention that he's getting right now from
I do.
you.
Yeah, I think
it seems like he does. If you look at recent history, somebody who was running for president, you, who got arrested and had a mugshot, you could make the argument that politically that wound up helping you. Are you worried at all at this moment that talking about him getting arrested could be helpful to his political prospects? Because a lot of people think he wants to be sitting right where you are.
Well, in my case, it was a witch hunt, and everybody knew it. And I was able to explain that during the process. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And it was a total witch hunt. It's proven to be a witch hunt, and you see what's happened. In his case, it really is very obvious. You look at what's happened between the fires, I could name 10 things right now. We talk about the trains. We talk about all of the costs in California. You talk about all of the people that are flowing and destroying life for everyone else. So, no, I don't think it's going to help him. I think it's actually very bad for him.
And right around the time that we were walking in here, the governor and the state attorney general said that they're going to sue you for sending the National Guard in. They're saying there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. The president is trying to manufacture chaos and crisis on the ground for his own political ends. Federalizing the California National Guard is an abuse of the president's authority under law.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You watched the same clips as I did. Cars burning all over the place, people rioting. And by the way, we stopped it. We were able to make it much better, but it still looked pretty bad. And in watching clips last night, people were saying this is really a big problem. And until we went in, if we didn't do the job, that place would be burning down just like the houses burned down. They were in big trouble last night, Peter. You know it. And the night before, and the night before that. And I feel we had no choice. I don't want to see happen what happened so many times in this country. I watched Minneapolis burn. Look at what happened in so many different parts of California. You take a look at what happened in San Diego. There's so many different places where we let it burn. We wanted to be politically correct. We wanted to be nice. We wanted to be nice to the criminal. And what you're doing is destroying the fabric of our life in this country. No, we did the right thing. We've been given credit by people that I would least suspect. Why I would say that some of the people that came in and said, thank goodness, they said, some of them, thank God that Trump got involved. And I'm very happy I got involved. And I think Gavin, in his own way, is probably happy I got involved. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
What do you make of the fact that he says, you want a civil war on the streets of America?
No, that's just the opposite. I don't want a civil war. Civil war would happen if you left it to people like him. And I liked him. You know, I always got along with him. Never had a problem with him. But he's grossly incompetent. Okay.
In London, have you gotten an update from your team in London negotiating?
What? Louder.
Have you gotten an update from your team in London negotiating the China trade talks?
We are doing well with China. China's not easy, just like your home country is not easy there. I think we're doing very well. They're over there now. I'm only getting good reports. It's a little early, but they'll be calling in soon. In fact, probably when I get back, I'll have my first call from them. We want to open up China. And if we don't open up China, maybe we won't do anything. But we want to open up China. It'll be a great thing for China, a great thing for the rest of the world.
Are you willing to lift export controls when it comes to China? Did you give your negotiators any sort of limitations?
We're going to see. Look, China has been ripping off the United States for many years. Nobody charged them 10 cents. No president had the courage to charge China for whatever reason. They didn't want to do it. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. I put on tariffs on China when I got in first term. And we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And then I did it again, but I did it for a lot of others. If you look at the stats, the deficit last month was cut in half. Everybody was shocked. I wasn't shocked. I think a lot of the people at this table weren't, because they saw the billions of dollars that were pouring in, and the tariffs hadn't even started yet, just about. They were in cars. They were in some countries at a very minor level. And we cut the deficit in half, and it was a big story a couple of days ago. They said, I don't believe, one of the announcers on a business network went wild, said, I can't believe these numbers. Those numbers are good. The numbers are going to be very good. I think we're going to have a great 4 years. You know, we had the greatest economy in history during my 4 years. I think this one's going to blow it away. Yeah. Go ahead,
do you have a message for Greta Thunberg, and did she come up on your call with the Prime Minister today?
Well, she's a strange person. She's a young, angry person. I don't know if it's real anger. It's hard to believe, actually, but I saw what happened. She's certainly different. Anger management. I think she has to go to an anger management class. That's my primary recommendation for her.
Kidnapped by Israel, as she says? Was she kidnapped?
I find it. I think Israel has enough problems without kidnapping Greta Thunberg.
And secondly, are you going to
Is that what she said? She was kidnapped by Israel?
Yes, sir. Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations.
Actually,
I got so many locations that I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla, did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask...
did have an argument, but I didn't see I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
About aid in Gaza, you mentioned now the flotilla. Do you have a response at all about Israel intercepting this boat? And can you give us an update on what's happening to the entry of aid into Gaza right now? We've had people being shot by Israeli forces who are trying to get aid from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Yes.
Gaza right now is in the midst of a massive negotiation between us and Hamas and Israel, and Iran actually is involved. And we'll see what's going to happen with Gaza. We want to get the hostages back. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, please, in the back.
You said yesterday when I reported that it was not insurrection taking place, but then on Truth Social a bit later, you'd said they were insurrectionists. After what you've seen
You're talking about in L.A.?
Yes, sir, in L.A.
I wouldn't call it quite an insurrection, but it could have led to an insurrection. I mean, that was a lot of harm that was going on last night. I watched it very closely. And it was amazing that the job that the National Guard did. And by the way, the police were working very hard also. But, you know, the police are given instructions to be politically correct. I said, no, you don't have to be politically correct. You have to do the job.
And on Elon Musk, do you plan to speak to him on the phone anytime soon? I know some.
Which one?
On Elon Musk, do you plan to speak to him on the phone anytime soon?
I haven't really thought about it, actually. I would imagine he wants to speak to me. I would think that. If I were him, I'd want to speak to me, but And maybe he was already called. You'd have to ask him whether or not he's already called. But I'd have no problem with it. Well, I don't want to say that, but but I would imagine he'd want to talk to me.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Proposal from Iran today. Have you gotten that proposal? And what is the main impediment?
We have a meeting with Iran on Thursday, so we're going to wait till Thursday.
And what's the main impediment to getting a deal?
Well, they're just asking for things that you can't do. They don't want to give up what they have to give up. You know what that is. They seek enrichment. We can't have enrichment. We want just the opposite. And so far, they're not there. I hate to say that because the alternative is a very, very dire one, but they're not there. They have given us their thoughts on the deal, and I said, it's just not acceptable. I would say, yeah. I don't know what else I can talk about. The weather.
Well, you can talk about Lebanon.
Pretty much that's the main topic, yeah.
Mr. President.
We talked about Lebanon also, yeah, we did. Well, Lebanon's working very hard. They have a great new ambassador that I put there. Man, I know very well. He's very smart. I didn't even know he was Lebanese. And I said, why would you want Lebanon? He said, I was born there. I love it. I love the people. I said, it's very dangerous going to Lebanon. There are some ambassadorships that are wonderful. There are some that are dangerous. I said, Michel, his name is. It's a he, Michel, very elegant man. And I said, why would you want this? And he said, because I love my country and I love those people. I said, it's very dangerous. He goes, I don't care. This is not a man that lived on danger. He's a very successful man from here. And he wanted to be the ambassador despite probably a very dangerous situation he's going into. You see what's going on. But I had great respect for that. He loves that country. He loves it. He was born there. He loves the country. Yeah.
Mr. President, you've got a big, beautiful parade coming up on Saturday.
We do.
What's your biggest expectations for that? And I've got a second question in regards to Gavin Newsom. Go ahead and talk about the big, beautiful parade.
It's such a, thank you, Brian. It's such a, I think, important moment for this country. 2 weeks ago, I was calling people and back and forth with leaders, including President Putin, including French president, including lots of different people. And all of them said, we're celebrating victory in World War II. And I said, wow, isn't that amazing? We're the only one that wasn't celebrating, and we're the one that won the war. Now, Russia did help. They did lose 51 million people, in all fairness. People would say, oh, he's sticking up for Russia. No, they lost 51 million people. And, we can't forget that. But France was celebrating. And, as you know, Hitler made a speech at the Eiffel Tower. But when I spoke to President Macron, he said, oh, we are celebrating the great victory of World War II. And I think that's great that he was doing it. But we're the one that won it, and we weren't celebrating. I said to myself, isn't that crazy? And I think it's time for us to celebrate a little bit. We've had a lot of victories. We won 2 world wars, and then we go out and change the name of the forts where we won the wars. You go out, we win world wars from Fort Robert E. Lee, from Fort Bragg, from all the different forts. And what do? We change the name of the forts because we want to be politically correct. So a lot of them we're changing back. You probably noticed Fort Bragg and others. But I think it's a time to celebrate our military. We've rebuilt our military largely. Little low on ammunition. That's because it goes out very fast to other countries, one in particular. But we'll get that back very quickly. But we have a military the likes of which nobody has. Nobody comes close. We have the best equipment in the world. We make the best equipment in the world. There's no military like our military. We showed that with ISIS. I was told by the television generals it would take 4 years to win, and we did it in 3 weeks. And it was headed by General Raisin Kane, who's now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's great. Just left him. No, I think it's time that we celebrate. And I sort of have to laugh at these people. Well, you're going to spend a lot of money. A lot of that money is being paid for by me and people that make donations. I don't know if you know that. A lot of it won't even come out of the military. I think I can say that, Susie, right? we have people putting up money to do it. Not that it's necessary, because I think it's a great expenditure. We have mini tanks. We have all sorts of new ones and very old ones, old from World War I and World War II. It's really a celebration of the Army. So the Army is a year older than the country. So next year we celebrate 250 years, but we're celebrating the Army on Flag Day. And it's not my birthday. It is my birthday, but I'm not celebrating my birthday. I'm celebrating Flag Day. It happens to be the same day, so I take a little heat. But Flag Day is the appropriate date. And we're celebrating 250 years of the Army, a great service. And remember, you know, think of it. We won so much. We won World War I, World War II, so much else. And then we became politically correct. But I can only tell you that I was told that ISIS would take anywhere from 4 to 5 years, and we did it in 3 weeks. You were there, you watched, right? We have the greatest military in the world. Nobody can beat us as long as we have our right leadership.
And you were just watching now President Trump at the Invest America Roundtable event at the White House. So he promoted a key feature of the Big Beautiful Bill at the event, which is a specific provision that would provide every American newborn with a $1,000 investment account. And the event also had top executives from Dell, Uber, Goldman Sachs as well, and others. Moving on from that, joining us now to discuss the situation regarding the protests and rioting in